There we go, I think we've pretty much got it. It's just a quick fleeting moment, the start of the new trip. Just an afternoon shot, bit of light and shadow. That light moved very quickly. All right, well the sun's come out. I reckon I'll leave that at that. I reckon I've got my big impression. Feel like I've caught the morning. Let's pack up, get back to camp. All right, here we go. Blocking in the sunrise. Working on location, obviously. Get up about an hour or two before sunrise, have a few cups of tea around the fire. Get into the zone. Work out the composition I'm going to be using. And then boom, get into it. Now first I'm starting with some darks, just establishing a few of the darks and basically feeling the composition. Getting the positioning of the major shapes and forms that I want. Now I'm going to start working on, once I've got the darks, I'm working on a bit of the reflection in the water. Get those major shapes and forms set up early. Get all the reflections in the correct spot. Now that's mainly a mix, that colour is mainly a mix of Viridian green burnt siennas and a little bit of yellow ochre, but I'm trying to keep it in a low key so there's not a lot of white. Just basically putting the darks in first. Once I feel like I've got all the darks pretty much established how I want, I'll start applying some of the high key rich colours. But for now, once that sunrise colour, here we go, let's apply some really high key cad oranges with white. Try and keep it as clean as possible so it's just cad orange and just white, no other colours mixed. And try not to smudge it too much. A little bit of smudging later on to finish and soften the pictures good, but at the moment while I'm applying I like to keep the colours absolutely clean. So now I've jumped into the next layer up and that's yellow ochre and white with just a little bit of a cad colour in it. Get that all applied and then we'll go up to the next layer in a minute, which is going to be yellow ochre with a little bit of blue or green to the next layer of the sky, and that's getting more of the blue colour of the sky introduced. Plenty of ochre still mixed up in it because it's a gradation, of course. A little bit below as well. Next phase, jumping right into the top of the picture. So I've lowered the key here, I'm going ultramarine blue or cobalt blue, either one's fine, and I've got a bit of magenta, permanent magenta. And what that does is made it a slight red blue. Once I've got that all blocked in, I'll start smearing it together so all the colours are kind of married to each other, I guess. Instead of sitting there looking at each other, they'll be blended together subtly. There'll be a subtle gradation between them all. A little bit more high key, so there's more yellow. Now this is an important part here. What I'm doing is I'm smearing and cleaning with the knife, just helping to blend those colours together. And at the same time you can see it's also pulling the foliage slightly into the sky and just softening it. Now here's the all important high key moment, putting the pure white, give the biggest accent. And here we go again, clean off and smear that. Now that can really mess the painting up, but at the same time it can really work. With palette knives, I feel like you need a softness because they do tend to be very harsh. And this technique of cleaning the knife and then pulling like I'm doing now, pulling the colours together, helps blend them together and soften. It still keeps the painting nice and broad and clean and fresh. A little bit more blending. Downward pulls like this. For water, clear waters, quite often the best way to do that is that pulling straight down. Same thing I'm doing here, I'm pulling the blue over the foliage, and here now just blending the oranges and ochres into the blue subtly, so there's much more of a subtle change like I was saying. Alright, well, there we go. I think we've pretty much got it. It's just a quick fleeting moment, the start of the new trip. So glad to be here. Been quite a long time since I've been out bush, as you know, and now to be back out plein air painting, doesn't get much better. Absolutely enjoy it. Got the perfect day for it. Yesterday was overcast on the way here and raining and whatever else. It actually rained quite a lot last night. But now got perfectly clear skies. Got the river, got the sound of the birds, everything. Feel like I've captured something here. Just a little fleeting moment. Head back to camp and have another cup of tea. And and then think about what I'm going to do for the midday painting. All right. Well, it was supposed to be fairly overcast. There's a bit of cloud coming in, but it's just such a great day. I hope it stays like this. We weren't supposed to get the rain last night, but we got tons. We weren't supposed to be so clear now. There's not a cloud anywhere. Maybe one or two on the horizon over there. Anyway, that's the thing about plein air painting. You just never quite know what you're going to get. You just go with it. And it was a nice surprise this morning to have that perfect clear light. Alright, well that's just a quick little painting along the coast, I guess you could say. Just an afternoon shot, bit of light and shadow, play of warm and cool colours, all the rest. It's been another overcast day, as you saw this morning. It was beautiful, and then the clouds filled up and it went all boring and extremely windy, but now still a bit of wind around, but all the lights come back out. It just gave me enough time to whip up this quick one. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it or not, so I didn't turn the camera on. I just went frantic, thrashed the paint on. Now I realise I've got it. Boom, I thought I'd come and say hello. Alright, let's just pack this up and get back to camp. That's good, got two paintings in the bag. Pretty happy about that. Let's put all these colours back up here and away we go. White, green, red, yellow. Alrighty, hang on. Goes down like so. She's getting a little bit rickety, this easel. I did a bit of work on it before I went out this time. Took some of the screws out because they're all falling apart. Re-glued the holes and screwed the screws back in, so it's all a lot firmer and everything's working a lot better in that regard. But every now and then, it's had so much work this easel, every now and then it just needs a bit of a birthday like that. Alright. Just put that one there.
We do not want to mess it up, wet painting and all. Don't want to drop it in the dirt. Let's put that there. Let's just stand back and have a look, eh? Yep. Get this box open. In she goes. Alright, beauty. Done. Let's get this night fire going, shall we? It's going to cool off tonight. So, we'll get this going. A few dry gum leaves, that'll get it going. A beautiful magic owl, that light, absolutely fantastic stuff. I love that light, that golden light across the landscape. Up and running. Bit of heat in that one. Beautiful, beautiful. You can hear the bird life now, the wind's starting to cut out. The wind always seems to cut out in the evening and first thing in the morning, which is handy if you want to paint plein air and you like to paint that hour of the day. But another bonus is when the wind cuts out early in the morning and late in the evening, get to hear those beautiful birds, and I really love coming out here and listening to all that stuff. Part of the beauty of it, I guess. Yeah, so I'm really happy that those colours came out right at the end, because I thought, oh, here we go, another overcast day. How am I going to play with all that colour that I love to do, being the impressionist and all that? But there you go, it happened. You never know with plein air, you just got to get out there and start. And the magic came, she poked down underneath a cloud on the western horizon and boom, lit everything up. Fantastic stuff. There we go, starting to get a bit of noise. That always seems to happen. Shake the water around, it seems to boil quicker, because it mixes the hot and the cold. Alrighty, what to do tomorrow? Well, there's some nice clouds out there. Should be getting a bit of B-roll together with this last bit of light, but I also need my cup of tea, don't I? There's some beautiful clouds, some big thunderhead clouds just over there with some pinky orange light on them.
Okay, the next morning I'm painting to the western sky, so I'm not looking directly into the sunlight, painting away from the sun, painting the belt of Venus as they call it, those beautiful bands of colour you get in the sky just as the sun rises. Now first of course I'll establish the composition and get some darks in. Got to work very quickly because it's going to change. At the moment everything's in shadow, but as soon as that sun pops up over the eastern horizon, the whole composition is going to be different. So I've got to block in all the shadow tones and values now. I'm currently blocking in the water with a mixture of burnt sienna, yellow ochre and a bit of viridian green. Just getting a nice coverage going. Downward marks to give that feeling of soft reflective water. Once I feel I've got enough of that. Now here's this belt of Venus we're talking about. You can see the blue, then the magenta and then the burnt siennas as it goes up the layers. And the blue is actually the Earth still in shadow, that's casting a shadow onto the Earth's atmosphere. And once you get above that blue, that mixture is, by the way, is cobalt blue and titanium white. And that is the Earth's atmosphere in shadow. Next you're striking, the sun's starting to strike the atmosphere, and I find that a mixture of magenta and white is perfect for that. So I'll apply that. Once I've got that on, I'll then start to pull it into that blue, just so they're not staring at each other, get a nice blend. Now maybe get a little bit more magenta, it's such a nice colour, I just want to put a bit more in, magenta and white, before I go to the next layer. Now the next band will actually be a mixture of white and burnt sienna. Seems to be a nice one to go with for the next layer. Get that in as quickly as I can because time is a wasting. Pull it into the magenta, get a nice subtle blend. Then go up to the next layer, and this will be yellow ochre and white. And I'll put plenty of this on because there's plenty of ochre in that morning sky. Thrash that around all over. Start to pull it into the other colours, get a nice blend. When I feel happy that I've got enough of that ochre, I'll just blend it off a bit. I like to use these little marks, these broken colour marks. Now here we go. Get into still yellow ochre, but I'm mixing here viridian green and white. And that viridian green and white gives a real high key colour. And with that ochre, it's a beautiful morning colour. Blend them all together with broken marks. I find this nice blending, but leaving those marks half broken like that with the knife is a really good way to give the feeling of illusion of detail and the atmosphere getting lit up. Now we've changed tacks completely here and gone for cobalt blue and ultramarine, so it's a red blue. And at the moment they're completely staring at each other, they look different. But what I'll do is I'll pull the knife in and blend them together until it's satisfying your eye that there's a nice sky blend going on. I'll just pull them in with the knife into each other. Yeah, now these broken colours, getting enough blend but leaving it with a big knife fairly broken is a great way to give the illusion of light and also the illusion of detail, that feeling of light in the atmosphere. Just pull it together, nice blend. That's it, coming in nicely together, just a nice subtle blend. That's pretty much got that. Now the next move, what we'll do is, we'll start painting the foliage. So I'll grab a big knife and throw it on. You can see the palette knife can be quite harsh, that's laid that on very harshly, but at the same time I'll show you a technique later on where I can soften that. Now I'll get a few of the darker values in. Start painting maybe some of the reflection of the sky down below in the water, so it's all balanced. Just laying those high key sky colours over the top of the water, and in a minute I'll get a bigger knife. Once I feel like I've got enough paint on, I'll grab a big knife then and pull it together and blend. But first we'll get enough colour on, satisfy that I feel like I've got things going right. And when I get the big knife out, a clean knife, just pull straight down to give that feeling of reflective quality. That just pull straight down and then wipe the knife completely clean. And then go again. And those downward marks are that really great technique for softening. Now if I'll do a little bit in the sky just to show you, that sky, as I was saying, was fairly harsh, but if I have a clean knife and pull through, you can see how it pulls the foliage together and just softens it. I'll throw a few of the dark values in. I don't feel like I've got quite enough dark values happening in the foliage itself. I'm getting ready for the sun to pop over the horizon, which it will do very shortly. And that'll be very high key, warm colours. But for now, we'll put all the cool darks in, get everything, all the dark values established. Even in the trunk of the tree here, we need the cool colours. Because you've got to remember, the sun hasn't risen yet. It's just about to, so I've got to work flat stick. But at the moment, everything's that cool kind of pale colour, reflecting from the sky. So the sky's a cool colour up top, and what it's doing is reflecting down into the shadows and giving these cool tonal values. I'll get the knife on edge. I'll start drawing a few of the trunks in, because at the moment it's all very blocky and impressionistic. But as soon as you start putting a few thin, refined marks, it really starts to give the feeling of detail, and you can see what it is instead of just big blocks. You start to see that this is a tree, and that's a trunk, and that's a branch, etc. Put a bit, at the moment I just had raw linen for the bank. I've decided to add a bit of paint, so I've got something to work with. Do the same here. The bank's giving a reflection, so I'll add a little bit into the water itself. Then I'll turn the knife sideways and do a little bit for the tree trunk, a little bit of a reflection of the trees. Getting all this done so far, the sun hasn't risen, but heck, it's close. While I've still got a little bit more time before the sun rises, I'll just finish off on a bit more draftsmanship. Knife on edge with burnt siennas and blues, etc., to create those darker values. Just draw a few branches in to give the feeling of trees. A little bit more here, maybe a tad there, just to get a pleasing composition. Just feel it as you go. Maybe a little bit of a one here. Okay, now what I'll do is, the sun's just starting to pop up over the horizon, so I'll mix up some cat orange and ochre. It's a little bit dark in value, so I'll quickly just add a little bit more white to that, not much. And then start laying it over the top of those shadow values. And that's light enough in value now to give the feeling of that golden light that strikes just as the sun pops over the horizon. Got to work very quickly, because within moments it's changing. The sun, I'm painting across the light at the moment. I've got the painting facing across from east to west. But I'm looking over my left shoulder and painting directly with the sunlight. And you can see it on the tree how it's lit up now. The tree to the left of the painting has got that golden light. Within moments, everything will be lit up. Because I'm painting with the sunlight, there'll be no shadows soon, and it could just be completely full lit up. So I've only got a few minutes to work here before it changes. Trying to lay on the right branches to create a pleasing composition, not overworking, but at the same time getting an accurate rendition of what I'm looking at. A few spots of pure cad, maybe cad and white, just to make the painting pop. Haven't got much time to muck around here, because I don't want to rework the painting. Once that light's finished, that's the end of it. And I pretty much feel like I've got a good pleasing shape and size here now. That light moved very quickly. The sun was just below the horizon. I was painting not directly into the sunlight this time, with the sun directly behind my back, looking out towards the west. So instead of looking into the sun rising in the east, looking due west as it rises behind me. You get all those strong colours, but it goes from being just a belt of Venus, those beautiful blues and purples and rolling up into the sky with no light on the trees at all. It goes from that to all of a sudden, boom, once the sun's up, flick, spear of bright colour over the top. So the theory is blocking all that other stuff first, just as the sun's rising over the eastern horizon, and striking the trees, bang, have your colours, mix your colours quickly and just pop on that light source. A few minor adjustments after that and hopefully it's done. Pretty happy with what's going on. Could have done more, but in that fleeting time, that was pretty much it. All right, let's get back to camp. Another cup of tea. All right, so this is actually a great day for it. Hopefully today will be a lot clearer. I've had a lot of trouble with the weather, like light and shadow,
A lot of overcast, a lot of wind, but apparently it's going to become fairly good today, so we'll see how she goes. Okay. All right, well here we are, down the beach, down the river. Looks like we've got a bit of sunlight again, which is great. I'll work with it before it changes. It's been raining, it's been cloudy, it's been overcast, sunny, it's been a whole lot today. So I've just quickly drawn in some lines to get me idea of the composition. Put a few marks just quickly, all done with the palette knife, because today I'm using palette knife again on a stretched linen, but this time I've primed it with 3 coats of white, but it's still a Belgian linen. Buckets of oil paint and a couple of palette knives. All right, let's get ready to do the biggest differences now between having this white thing with patterns on it and trying to create that image. All right, let's get into it. Okay, what I'll do is establish some darks. I'll use alizarin crimson, Viridian green. Forgot to put it on. Hang on, let's just bung a bit of green in there. There we go. I'll use a tube for that one. So Viridian green and alizarin crimson, the opposite on the colour wheel, so it'll send out a real dark. That's quite dark. That's good. It's actually really dark in the foreground here, so I'll put a lot of dark. And then later on we can lighten it up, because you can paint over the darks. It's very easy to paint over the darks, as I've talked about in other videos. Let's just make sure that's all. With oil, because it's wet on wet, it's easier to put light on dark. You can put dark on light, but it can tend to get a bit muddy. So this way is easier. Palette knife will easily lay wet paint over the top of dark if you don't push in too hard. In theory. As I was blocking in, I just quickly taped off a line there just to get a horizon level, because we're on a weird angle here with the trailer and it can be an optical illusion for me when I'm painting, and I may make it a crooked horizon, so I thought I'd quickly tape it off first, and that way there'll be no troubles. Let's just get those darkest darks on. Quite dark. I can lighten them up, like I said. For now, just get the bulk of it in. Nice. All right, let me have a look. Not too bad. What I might now do is change tacks, go for some Viridian green, still in the darks, but use a bit of yellow ochre. I'll paint the foliage. I've got burnt sienna, yellow ochre and Viridian green. It's giving me some sort of really dark value. There's no white involved in that. Just want to put in some of the foliage. You don't have to put it exactly where you're seeing it. You're trying to create a pleasing composition. That's about it there. Not too bad. Now what I'll do is get a bit of magenta, a bit of ultramarine blue and a little bit of white, mix them all together and make a lovely lavender type of colour. A little bit more of the blue. Look at that, that's good stuff. Alright, now half mix that into my greens and it'll key it off a bit for over here on the banks. Good, we're still recording. I heard something, I thought the camera had just turned off, but it wasn't that. There's a bit of bark falling off the tree behind us. Lovely. Hang on. I need a bit of burnt sienna with that magenta. I'm trying to send it off to a mushroom type of grey to also go along with the trunks and foliage as well. Got to work quick on these big paintings because time is a wasting. Yep. Right, put that one there. Yeah, about that. Let me have a look, eh? Now there's a bit of, oh, the sun's come out again. There's a bit of reflection on the water, but there's not as much as quite often because of all that wind. It's creating all sorts of dramas there. But I'll mix up, let's see, yellow ochre, bit of yellow ochre and white, quite a lot. Oh, now it's gone high key, hang on. Because the sun's going in and out, it's doing all sorts of things. I've made a high key turquoise with Viridian green and white. Gonna half mix that with the yellow ochre. I want a very high key colour. A bit more white with that. There's a lovely reflection on the other side. Let me have a look. Just at the base there, yeah, it's a beautiful colour. It's predominantly yellow ochre and those Viridian green colours, just here. I've just popped that in. That's nice. We can break that line up a bit later on, but for now we'll just put it in. Right, now, pull it down. That's it. Nice. When the sun comes out, there's a lot more green in the water and a lot less reflection of the sky, and then when the sun goes out, that's when the sun disappears, all of a sudden the water goes non-reflective, kind of weird, you're just getting a reflection of the sky rather than seeing those beautiful deep greens and whatever. Let's mix up cobalt blue, white, yellow ochre. Going to try and get some sort of sky blue going on here, down lower. So I've got the cobalt blue, the yellow ochre, and the white. That makes that kind of nice greeny blue. That looks close on right. I'll try and block that in at the moment without touching the edges too much. Touching the darks, I'll smudge the darks in later, but I just don't want to make a muddy mess at the moment. So do the best I can there. What have we got here? A little bit can go there. Here. A bit more in there. Getting there, getting there. Oh, what fun to be back out painting. Let's get a bit of that, let's have a look. Throw a bit of that in here and there. Bit more blue, yellow ochre and white. Bit more blue. Mix that up. What we got here? There's the green, okay. There's a fair bit of shadow too. Let me stand back for a minute. Those shadows have come out on the water. Let's just block them in before we lose them. Roughly like that. Because now they're starting to fade again. Just want to get a basic idea. Go for some ultramarine blue, pretty and green, make a bit of a darker colour. Down in here. Keep on thrashing the paint around. Large scale, I love it. Large scale painting. Luckily, it feels like the sun is coming out a little. It's great. Just get all this in. Try and get rid of as many of those disturbing whites that put your eye off. Get the block in as quickly as possible. Okay, so that shadow is going to be there. Look, the shadows are going again. Shadow for that tree is there. It goes there. It's coming along. Just non-stop work and more work. Just adding a few of these little highlights. Alright, well the sun's come out. I reckon I'll leave that at that. I reckon I've got my big impression now. I've got a nice play of warm and cool colours because the sun has come out and it's later in the day now. Just getting a little bit of colour flicking around, and it'll really play with those warm highlight oranges against the cool blues. Really where you need them in the accent places. A little spear of light right here, like a real accent, bit of a reflection from it. On the whole, happy with what's going on. Big broad blue marks here, little refining marks, good variety. Pretty happy with what's going on. Alright, so let's get that camera off, come buzzing right in and have a close look. Alright, thank you. Wind is all heck, I tell you. Just as well, I've got this trailer. Alright, in the box. In the box. Get it shut, all shut, before it gets any dust particles or anything else like that on it. Pretty happy with what's going on. I feel like I've caught the morning Just a little bit of cloud cover this morning, not too much, but there was a beautiful light mist on the water. And that mist, I've just added in so very delicately, with just the finest bit of cloud and of course the beautiful sunrise beside the tree. Pretty happy with all that. And yeah, it was quite an interesting morning because it's so clear and so still, but just the fine threads of clouds, just a few, just add that extra colour dimension, I guess, to the sky, because the sky's got a lot of the cool blues and greens. And of course the sunrise is a warm, hot colour. And if you can just get a few more of those dancing around in the sky in the form of clouds, it just helps to celebrate the main event, I guess, which is the sun glowing itself. Okay, no worries. All right, well, I think we've pretty much got it. I better leave it alone. The light's changed, as you can see, the fleeting moment. You start it before the light's there, or you anticipate what's going to happen. You start blocking in when you can see enough. And because it's moving so fast, you're constantly making those slight alterations, just tweaking it. Then the moment happens, boom. And then you've got to know when to finish, because now all the sun's up, all the colours have changed, they're different. So it's kind of like, don't go any further. It was a moment in time. I've caught that colour, that moment in time. If I keep on going now and keep copying what I'm seeing, I'm actually painting a different subject now because the light and the colours and the tonal values completely changed. So, knowing when to finish is a big part. You've got to bring it up enough, obviously, to be finished, but at the same time, knowing when to just, when you feel like you've got your big impression, and just leave it alone. Feel like I've captured everything, pretty happy. Let's pack up, get back to camp.